Hi, it's Edward, back with another video. Please take a moment to click the thumbs up button below and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your support. Today I read an interesting article on Yahoo Entertainment, put out by The Blast, and written by Afuda Bomadil, titled, Will Smith Reportedly Offloading Properties for Cash to Keep Up with the Enormous Bills. According to the author, the actor's multi-million-dollar net worth is being threatened by enormous bills, reportedly stemming from managing his sprawling properties. My friends, I hate to hear about this. I hope he is able to deal with his current financial situation and come out unscathed. Unfortunately, a lot of celebrities end up declaring bankruptcy because the tides turn and they can't afford their mega mansions, their yachts, their planes, or their fleet of expensive vehicles. In my opinion, more Americans should consider living far beneath their means. This way, they can set money aside in an emergency fund, they can have money for retirement, and they don't have to stress about maintaining a large home. A home is a machine for living, and like all machines, there are things that wear out. When you have a really big house, it can get expensive. A roof costs more for a really large house. Gutters cost more because you have more linear feet. You have more downspouts. You have more windows. It's really expensive to replace windows in a large home, especially if those are wood windows from a reputable manufacturer. You also have to worry about all of the plumbing in the home. Some of these large homes have multiple water heaters. You also have to worry about the HVAC systems. A lot of expensive homes have multiple HVAC systems. Well, all of this gets really, really expensive as the home ages. Even when you think about carpeting, if you want to replace even cheap carpeting, let's say you get it somewhere like Lowe's, you're probably going to pay $2 or $3 a square foot. When you have an 8, 10, or 12,000 square foot home, it's not going to be cheap, especially when you throw in good quality pad and installation. I think folks should stop trying to impress other people. Instead, live beneath your means. Impress people with your personality, with your caring demeanor. You can invite people over to a small residence. You can still have a lot of fun. Some small homes are more cozy than these big cavernous mega mansions. My friend, who has a mega mansion, doesn't use most of it. He has one gigantic room, and that's reserved primarily for parties or fundraisers. He lives in the kitchen, the TV room, his bedroom, and he has a really, really nice walk-in closet and a really nice bathroom. Beyond that, he doesn't use much of the home, but he's paying property taxes and insurance and utilities on the rest of that property, along with maintenance, because it's not cheap to clean an expensive home like that on a regular basis. Even if you're not using those rooms, you still have dust collecting. You still get little bugs along the windowsills. The blinds still need to be cleaned. The windows still need to be washed. It's not cheap to do this. I don't know why some people want to take on a big undertaking like managing a very, very large home. I know people who have moved into expensive neighborhoods and they've purchased homes they can barely afford. Let me tell you what happens. Your wife and your children start mingling with the neighbors. And before you know it, your wife wants to go on exotic vacations just like the neighbors are doing. The children, they want a golf cart, just like the neighbor children have. The neighbor children have a certain type of designer shoe, and now your children want that. Those children have certain electronic devices. Now your children want those. Before you know it, you are spending a lot of money to keep up with the Joneses. This is not a good situation to be in. In my opinion, it's better to live far beneath your means and live next to normal people. People that have normal shoes, normal cars, normal clothes. You can still have some great friends. Growing up, we lived in a fairly modest home, and we had some really, really great neighbors. Whenever we needed something, they were always there to help out. And to this day, a lot of those neighbors still stay in touch with us. And sometimes when you live in these really expensive neighborhoods, like gated communities, there are a lot of working professional people, and many of them have great jobs, but they're always working. They're hardly ever home. And many of these folks are trying to climb the career ladder. And so they might be in that neighborhood for 2 or 3 years, and then they're going to move to a different city to be able to take some promotion. You don't have neighbors who are going to be around for decades like you might in certain neighborhoods. These are just things to think about before you go out and move into a real high-end neighborhood and purchase a home that you can barely afford. I don't think it's a good move. I think that Americans would be better served buying a good, quality built, smaller home that they can live in for the rest of their life. There are a lot of people who decide to downsize when they get older. Well, it's expensive to do that. You have transaction fees when you close on the property. You're going to have to pay the real estate agent. If you hire a professional moving company because you're older and you don't want to lift heavy things yourself, these moving companies, they are very expensive. Why downsize? Why not buy a home that's going to serve you well into old age? Then you don't have to worry about it. And if you have something smaller, you can maintain it well. When the roof needs to be replaced, you don't need to defer that. You can take care of it. When your gutters need to be replaced, no problem. It's not going to cost very much. If the property needs to be painted, again, no big deal, because you're not having to paint a lot. When you have one of these huge homes, you may have to hire professional painters. Well, that is really expensive these days. You would be shocked at how much it costs to hire professional painters. I don't think some folks want any part of this. I just don't think everyone understands how expensive it is to live in some of these big homes. And I have to wonder if Will Smith knew how expensive it was going to be to maintain some of these really large homes. He probably had no idea. And maybe he didn't worry about it for a while when he was making millions from some of his movies. But now it may be a different situation. And I bet he regrets buying some of those properties, especially if he has more in them than what he is able to sell them for. Some people really get put on the elevator when they're building a really exquisite home. These contractors just have a way of continuing to nickel and dime you. When you go to sell a high-end home, you may have a difficult time getting your money back. When you buy a modest home, more people can afford that. You might even be able to create a bidding war for that property because there are so many people that want a property like that. When you have these big homes, you have a really small pool of buyers, and that can be very, very problematic. There are a lot of wealthy people that have lost a lot of money when they have sold their mega mansions. I personally know of a lot of individuals who lost money when it was time to sell their homes. It's not a good situation. A lot of these people would have been better served dollar cost averaging into investments and living in a modest place. I'm going to tell you a story. A friend of my father's was an architect. He was going to build a client this amazing home. It was fairly modest in terms of size, but the architect was going to make sure that everything was high quality. All brick, real limestone trim around the windows and doors, real 3/4 inch tongue and groove flooring, real copper plumbing throughout the entire home. None of that galvanized piping or PEX piping or PVC or CPVC, nothing like that. We're talking about real copper plumbing with sweated joints. Anyway, this client wanted a bigger home, so he wasn't going to be able to afford all of these expensive materials. The architect said, "Why do you need such a big home? It's just you and your wife." The client said, "Well, every Christmas we have family come over, so we want to have this really big room where we can host a Christmas party and have all of our family and friends there." The architect said, "If you really want to do that, why don't you just rent a hall one day a year and instead have this really high quality home instead for the rest of the year?" Well, the client didn't want to do that. So the client got a home that wasn't built as well. And years later, the client told the architect he really messed up. He really regretted that decision. He said he should have listened to the architect because it was dumb to build this gigantic room just for one day a year. He would have been better served having a quality built, smaller home. I think a lot of Americans would be better served having a quality built, smaller home. I'm curious what you think about all this. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you know anyone who has purchased a very expensive home and lived to regret it, tell me about it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel. I want to extend a special thanks to everyone who has subscribed to this channel. I want to also thank all of my channel members. If you would like to become a channel member, there is a link in the description beneath this video. You can read more about the different membership levels. Please also check out some of the great books I suggest you consider reading in the description below. I've included Amazon affiliate links to these books. As an Amazon associate, I earn from qualifying purchases. Stay healthy and wealthy. I'll see everyone in the next video.